Galactic Unification, Chapter 1. Shadow from the Stars. Part 3. Earth Under Siege. The silent void, once a canvas for humanity's hopeful gaze, had become a canvas of terror. The alien fleet, a chilling testament to a power far exceeding human comprehension, had arrived not with a bang, but with a precisely calculated detonation of destruction. Their initial assault, a brutal and efficient dismantling of Earth's orbital defenses, had been a prelude, a terrifying overture to a symphony of devastation. Now, the main act began, a systematic erasure of human civilization from the face of their home planet. From their vantage points in the lunar observatory, Dr. Eris Thorne and his team could only bear witness, their instruments now serving as conduits for a horror too profound to fully process. The data streamed in, raw and unvarnished, painting a picture of a world convulsing under a relentless alien hammer. The obsidian behemoths, hanging like malevolent moons, unleashed their fury with an unnerving accuracy. Targeted beams of energy, impossibly pure and devastatingly focused, carved swathes of annihilation across continents. These were not random acts of destruction, they were surgical strikes, designed to cripple, to disarm, and to demoralize. The narrative shifted, moving from the cold detachment of space to the searing, immediate reality on the ground. The skies above Earth, once the domain of clouds and sunlight, were now crisscrossed by the incandescent trails of alien weaponry. The impact zones were not mere craters, they were voids, places where entire cities, proud testaments to human ingenuity and history, had ceased to exist in a searing flash. The global communication blackout, a chilling silence that had preceded the storm, now amplified the screams of the dying, the desperate pleas that would never reach their intended ears. In the ruins of what was once a thriving European metropolis, a detachment of NATO peacekeepers, accustomed to skirmishes and peacekeeping operations, found themselves facing an enemy beyond their wildest nightmares. Sergeant Anya Sharma, her face smeared with dust and the grime of battle, huddled with her squad behind the remains of a shattered monument. The alien advance was not a chaotic swarm, it was a chillingly coordinated push. Sleek, metallic forms, reminiscent of predatory insects, scuttled across the devastated landscape, their multifaceted optical sensors glinting with an unnerving intelligence. These were the ground troops, the harbingers of conquest, equipped with weaponry that seemed to warp reality itself. "They're flanking us!" a young corporal shouted, his voice trembling as he pointed towards a row of buildings that had miraculously survived the initial orbital bombardment. From these structures, beams of shimmering cerulean light erupted, not like bullets, but like tendrils of living energy, lashing out and dissolving the armored vehicles that had been their last line of defense. The air crackled with an energy that felt alien and hostile, a tangible manifestation of the invaders' power. Sharma, a veteran of countless deployments, had never experienced anything like this. The coordinated movements of the alien ground forces, their unnerving silence broken only by the hum of their advanced technology, spoke of a perfect, brutal efficiency. They moved with a singular purpose, their objectives clear: to subdue, to conquer, to erase. She watched as a squad of her own soldiers, armed with advanced kinetic weaponry, opened fire. The rounds, designed to pierce reinforced steel, simply seemed to dissipate upon contact with the alien troopers' shimmering energy shields, leaving them entirely unharmed. It was like throwing pebbles at a hurricane. Fall back to the secondary line!" Sharma yelled, her voice hoarse. But the secondary line was already compromised. The alien forces seemed to anticipate their every move, their advance relentless and unyielding. They were not fighting a war of attrition. They were engaged in a systematic pacification, an eradication of resistance with a cold, clinical precision. Across the globe, similar scenes of desperate, futile resistance were unfolding. In the sprawling megacities of Asia, where towering arcologies had once scraped the sky, the inhabitants were now fleeing through a labyrinth of collapsing structures. The alien ground units, though smaller than the orbital behemoths, possessed a terrifying destructive capability. Their weaponry could phase through conventional materials, reducing concrete and steel to dust with a terrifying ease. On the eastern seaboard of what was once North America, the iconic Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom and hope, was now a silhouette against a sky ablaze with the light of alien energy discharges. Military units, deployed to defend what remained of the coastal defenses, found their advanced missile systems useless against the swarming alien craft. These smaller, agile vessels darted through the air with impossible speed, evading anti-air batteries and unleashing torrents of plasma that turned tanks into molten slag and vaporized entire platoons. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical. The sheer, overwhelming power of the invaders, the realization of humanity's profound unpreparedness, began to chip away at the will to resist. Reports, fragmented and often contradictory, filtered through the emergency broadcast channels that still flickered into existence before being abruptly silenced. Tales of alien constructs that could repair themselves almost instantaneously, of energy fields that rendered conventional weapons useless, of soldiers witnessing their comrades simply dematerialize, filled the airwaves with a palpable sense of dread. The world's beloved landmarks, once icons of human achievement and cultural heritage, were now reduced to rubble and ash. The Eiffel Tower, the Colosseum, the Great Wall of China, these were not just historical sites. They were symbols of humanity's journey, of its triumphs and its enduring spirit. Now they were being systematically erased from existence, their destruction a stark visual representation of humanity's desperate struggle for survival. The very fabric of human civilization, woven over millennia, was being unraveled with an unnerving speed and efficiency. On Mars, the fledgling human colonies, relatively shielded from the direct orbital assault, felt the tremors of Earth's agony. The communication blackout meant that the news of the unfolding catastrophe was piecemeal, often days or weeks old, creating a terrifying vacuum of information. The colonists, who had looked to Earth as their beacon, their ancestral home, now watched with growing horror as their parent planet was systematically dismantled. The optimism that had fueled their interplanetary endeavors now felt like a cruel, naive delusion. The universe, they were learning, was not a welcoming frontier. It was a savage wilderness, teeming with dangers they had never imagined. Back on the moon, Thorne's face was grim. The data confirmed the worst fears. The alien fleet was not merely attacking. They were conducting a methodical terraforming of destruction, clearing the planet of its dominant species with the same efficiency with which a gardener would weed a plot. The sheer scale of the invasion was staggering. The number of ships, the advanced nature of their weaponry, the coordinated precision of their assault, it all pointed to a civilization of immense power and a clear, chilling objective. "They're not just fighting us," Thorne murmured, his gaze fixed on a holographic projection showing a massive energy weapon carving a scar across a continent. "They're erasing us, erasing our presence, our history, our very potential." The implications were profound. This was not a war for resources or territory as humans understood it. This was an extermination, a purge. The shadow from the stars had not just fallen, it had descended with the crushing weight of a death sentence, and Earth, the cradle of humanity, was now a world under siege, fighting a battle it was losing with every passing, fiery second. The hope for a new era of unity and exploration seemed impossibly distant, overshadowed by the immediate, desperate need to simply endure.